Earl Huband, and today I'd like to talk about a specific poetry workshop writing assignment that I was given many years ago, one that took my poetry in a direction that I never expected or even particularly wanted it to go initially, and it has been very worthwhile. I'm a convert. The assignment was to write a poem that did not use any rhyme at the ends of lines, and that had a specific fixed odd number of syllables. You could choose 5 or 7 or 9. So I wrote a poem with 5 syllables per line, and it seemed to go well. I wrote one with 7, and it seemed to work too. And then I wrote one with 9, and again it worked. But I had the feeling at the time, after doing those, that the 9-syllable line was, I don't know, I felt more comfortable, which is both, I suppose, could be both good and bad, but it just felt better to me. It was just an impression at the time. And then I moved on to other things and kind of forgot about it. And about 3 years later, I started writing poems about my experiences as a Peace Corps volunteer in the Middle East. This was 12 years after the fact, after I had left the Peace Corps. There was an initial burst in which I wrote first drafts of maybe 10 or 12 poems, and then I kind of paused for breath and thought, why don't I look and see what I've got, what I can make of it? And so I was looking at one of these poems, and suddenly it hit me that many of the lines in the poem were 9 syllables. I don't even know why I noticed that, I guess from, I don't know, the experience of having written the poem in that workshop. But I thought, maybe I should try to edit this to make all of the lines 9 syllables and see how it works. Well, it worked very well, so I did another one and another one and another one. And the upshot was I ended up with, long-term, 2 award-winning chapbooks in which every poem in each of the chapbooks had exactly 9 syllables. And then it was only at that point, after the books were published, that I thought to myself, why does the 9-syllable line work? Why does it seem to work so well for me? So I started thinking about that, and I'd like to tell you what I found to be true. But first, I'll talk about the 5-syllable line briefly, then the 7 briefly, and then the 9. If you have a 5-syllable line, then basically, almost certainly, really, most of the time, you're going to have either 2 accented syllables or 3 out of the 5, 2 beats or 3 beats. This gives you a certain amount of rhythmical variety if you move freely from one 2-beat line to another 3-beat line. And as an example of that, I'll offer just quickly 4 lines from a poem I wrote called The Art of Fishing. A clever angler will exploit her skill as a fly fisher, casting lines with bait. That's the opening of the poem. There's no doubt that a clever angler is a 2-beat line and that casting lines with bait is a 3-beat line. The others, perhaps you could argue, could be either, depending upon the reader. But my point is not that. It's that you have the freedom, even in a 5-syllable limitation, to move from 2 beats to 3 beats. And so you have a certain amount of rhythmic variety just by the virtue that you can do that. Similarly, in a 7-syllable line, you can have, well, mostly you're going to find you'll have probably 3 beats per line or 4 beats per line. Could you have 5? Of course, if you had a major break in the middle of the line, such as a period, for example. But the main point is that you have the freedom to move between 3 beats and 4 beats per line as you see fit. Okay. In the 9-syllable line is another similarity, but this time you have the freedom to move easily between 4 beats per line and 5 beats per line. And I would maintain that you're almost certainly going to find that your normal or typical line is going to be 4 beats. But something else happens that makes me think it is why the 9-syllable line works so well. Think of the major 4 metrical feet in English. The iamb and the trochee are 2 syllables. They're mirrors of one another. In the iamb, the second syllable is accented. The trochee, the first syllable, is accented. But you also have 2 other major metrical feet, the anapest and the dactyl. Both of them have 3 syllables, but the anapest takes the accent on the 3rd syllable, and the dactyl takes the accent on the 1st syllable. So if you have a 9-syllable line, then you're in a situation where you can move. You can also have a perfectly anapestic line or a perfectly dactylic line. Da-da-dum, 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 anapest. Dum-da-da, 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 dactyl. So what the 9-syllable line seemed to offer when I thought about it was the ability to move back and forth between 4 and 5 beats per line, or 5 and 4, 3 and 4, or 4 and 3, but you can also go directly from 3 beats per line to 5 beats per line, or vice versa, which gives you an extra dollop of rhythmical variety. And so, looking at my poems, that's how I realized this. And I want to leave you with a small example of one of the Peace Corps poems that I wrote that was based on an incident, an encounter in Shiraz, Iran in the summer of 1976 when I was vacationing between the 2 academic years that I was teaching English as a foreign language in the Peace Corps. I had made a friend and we were walking in Shiraz. So the poem goes like this. As we walk through the heart of the town, now that's anapestic trimeter, 3 anapestic beats. As we walk through the heart of the town, an old beggar woman grabs my hand, 5 beats. As we walk through the heart of the town, an old beggar woman grabs my hand. Now the dominant beat. Taken aback, I try to pull loose. She clutches me tighter, won't let go. Begone, woman, my comrade commands. Leave the poor man alone, he's married. Tugging my arm harder, she laughs, spits. I don't want him, I want his money. Well, if you look at that, the bass line is 4 beats, but you also can see that most of those 4-beat lines divide in half. Taken aback, I try to pull loose. She clutches me tighter, won't let go. And I continue in that mode up to begone, woman, my comrade commands. That's almost too many 4-beat lines in a row, but then it goes, leave the poor man alone, he's married. Still 4 beats, but not 2 and 2, but 3 and 1. And then, tugging my arm harder, she laughs, spits. 5 beats for emphasis. Back to the bass line. I don't want him, I want his money. Now, I don't know if this would work for you. I think it would probably work best if your natural tendency is to write lines that are at least 8 syllables and usually 9, 10, 11, 12, maybe 13. And if you tend to have more syllables than 9, then you're going to need to pare down, which forces you to think very much about each individual line and how to pare it down. And that's what I found that worked for me. I don't know if it would work for you, but I urge you to try it if you have an inclination. See, who knows where it would go. There's more I could say about this 9-syllable line. I've given it some additional thought, but I think I'll stop here, and I hope you have found what I've said about this helpful. If you want to see more of what I've done, the chapbooks are called, the first one, which is about my first year in the Peace Corps, was The Innocence of Education, Longleaf Press. And the second one was In the Coral Reef of the Market by Main Street Rag Publishing Company. I have a new book coming out early in 2026 called The Dix Hill Blues. And I haven't abandoned the 9-syllable line. 2 of the best poems in there, in my opinion, are in 9 syllables. But it's a mixture. So if anyone wants to contact me to ask me more about this, I'd be happy to answer questions. So that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Bye.